Life is very sweet. At least I'm in a position where things are going well overall. Not that it's always been easy, not that I don't have bad days. I actually talked about that just last week. But life is sweet. Hopefully that's the same for you. Have you ever heard that expression, if I knew what I know now when I was 15, when I was 20, when I was 25? That makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, that's not my story. My story is I made my mistakes just like many people, and I learned from my mistakes. And that is something that I'm very fortunate about because whatever mistake I'm talking about, whether it was financial, educational, marriage, whatever, as an individual, if I recall, there's things that I didn't like about that mistake. It could be a just generic mistake. But that changed me. That made me realize I want to do something different. I don't have to do something different, but if I don't, things aren't going to change. Because I did make those changes as an individual, life got sweeter. That's where I am now. Let me give you examples. Financially, I'm 45, going to be 46 shortly. When I was 16, I was actually pretty good with finances. When I was 18, I got sloppy. When I was 20, sloppy. When I was 22, sloppy financially. Nothing major, but I had to pay back that sloppiness when I was 24. When I was 24 is when I changed financially, and I got back on the tracks, and I said, I don't ever want to get off the tracks again. So since 24, what's that, 21 years now, almost 22, it's been good, and it gets better and better and better financially. And I'm not saying I was always making a lot of money. I was a young airman with the family, one income. So I would work part-time in retail. I also picked up garbage around the apartment complex to reduce my rent. I did whatever it took for me to get out of that horrible financial situation that I was in, or at least I thought I was in, and made improvements. Now, the thing about sloppiness is we can be sloppy, but there's going to be consequences that come with that. Another example is education. I love school. I've always liked school. In high school, I loved math. I loved English. I loved writing. I didn't like history. So obviously my grades in history were a C or a D. I'd always pass them because I played baseball. And for me to play baseball, you'd have to have at least a C average. But now I love history, and I love learning and listening to stories. I make every effort to learn something about history in the U.S. and outside of the U.S., especially when I travel. It's one of those things that if we do things different, read the book, do the homework, we're going to pass that history class or whatever class you want to add on there. I often talk to people and I observe things. If they're not asking me for my input, I'm not saying anything, but I'll still observe things. If we are waiting for an inheritance to have a good amount of money to do the things that we want to, that's the wrong mentality. If we're waiting to win the lottery to have whatever it is that we want, that's the wrong mentality. At least for me, that's my opinion. You may agree or disagree, and that's fine. But we are in control of our lives, or we should be in control of our lives. A question to you to think about is, are you in control of your life? The reason I ask that question is because I can remember being in my early 20s in Los Angeles, where there's a lot to do, and I was sloppy. I had to pay the consequences. I thought I was in control of my life, but I really wasn't, or at least to the point where I should be. Looking back, it's one of those things. If I knew, what's that saying? If I knew what I know now back then, wow, could you imagine? The good news is this. I've talked to very young people, late teens, early 20s, and these young kids, some of them have things going on so good that when they're my age, in their 40s and 50s and 60s, their lives are going to be even greater because they are so advanced. They were raised right. Somebody, whether it was their parent or a mentor or a family member or a friend, guided them, and that has helped them to where they're advanced. Maybe that's normal. Maybe that's abnormal. It wasn't normal for me. I learned through my own mistakes. I had to figure things out for myself. That's called living. That's called learning from my mistakes. I think that's common. And I'm not saying, I don't know any one person that's not going to make a mistake, period. Even if they were raised right by whoever. Everybody makes mistakes. The question is, how are we going to react when we make those mistakes? Are we going to do things different? I hope for the best for people, even if I don't know the people. I want the best for people, but there's only so much that I can do. And at the same time, there are things that I can't do for that person. More importantly, things that I don't even want to do for that person. I can give advice. I can say, hey, been there, done that. I know what you're feeling because I made that mistake too. Here's what I did different. And hopefully these people do things different as needed. Now, again, if they're not asking me for my advice or my input, I'm not saying anything. I respect everybody because everybody gets to live the way they want to. However, if they're asking me for my input, yes, they're going to hear it. They may not like it. It's not a personal thing towards them in a negative way. It's coming from a good place. I can say that with my two children. I have a son and a daughter. They're both in their 20s. I want the best for them. And I would hope that they do what they have to. I realize they're going to make their own mistakes, just like I did, just like everybody does. But hopefully they can learn from my mistakes as well, from my advice. That's the purpose. Again, if I knew back then what I know now, it would be even sweeter. The good thing is this: if you're in a challenging situation right now, whether you're young or old or somewhere in between, work on it. Don't give up. Try something different. See what works for others. See what doesn't work for others. See what doesn't work for you, and try to do something different, whether it's financially, whether it's career-wise, whether it's education, whether it's relationship, whether it's communication. The list goes on and on and on and on. So hopefully you get something out of this video where you can do something to improve your life, to give you more satisfaction of your life so you can enjoy it more, because life is sweet. And I really hope it is sweet for you as well. Take care. Have a good day.